When we think about Satan, our minds often leap to the New Testament, where he is presented as the ultimate adversary of Jesus Christ. But what about before Jesus entered the picture? Who was Satan, and what was he doing during the Old Testament era? Today, we're diving deep into the mystery of Satan's origins, his actions, and his role in the biblical narrative before the coming of Christ. To understand Satan's story, we must start at the beginning, his creation. According to Christian theology, Satan was originally a magnificent angel, created by God as a being of incredible power, beauty, and wisdom. In fact, many scholars associate him with descriptions found in Ezekiel 28, where a lament over the king of Tyre is thought to have dual significance, also referring to Satan. This passage describes a being sealed with perfection, adorned with precious stones, walking in the presence of God. However, this perfection was corrupted by pride, leading to rebellion against God. Ezekiel speaks of this being cast down, expelled from God's holy mountain, a symbolic representation of Satan's fall from grace. This rebellion is further echoed in Isaiah 14, which describes the downfall of Lucifer, a name often linked to Satan. The text refers to the morning star who sought to ascend above the stars of God, to make himself like the Most High. Yet, instead of rising, he was brought low, cast into Sheol, the realm of the dead. While this passage is also seen as a judgment against the king of Babylon, the imagery aligns with the broader narrative of Satan's prideful rebellion and his ultimate fall. But Satan's story doesn't end there. After his fall, Satan doesn't disappear from the scene. Instead, he becomes a shadowy figure, actively working to oppose God's plans. One of the clearest examples of Satan's activity is found in the book of Job, one of the oldest books in the Bible. Here, Satan appears before God, not as an equal but as a subordinate, seeking permission to test Job's faithfulness. This is one of the most striking depictions of Satan in the Old Testament, as it reveals key aspects of his role. He is an accuser, questioning the loyalty of humanity to God. He's also limited. He cannot act without God's permission, a reminder of God's ultimate authority over him. Satan's influence is also seen in the story of King David in 1 Chronicles 21. In this passage, Satan incites David to take a census of Israel, an act that leads to severe consequences for the nation. The census was not just a logistical decision. It was an act of pride, suggesting reliance on military strength rather than on God's provision. This moment showcases Satan's cunning, as he subtly manipulates even the most devoted followers of God to act against his will. Throughout the Old Testament, Satan works in the background, sowing discord, tempting individuals, and opposing God's people. His role is often implicit rather than overt, reflecting his strategy of deception and subversion. In Zechariah 3, we find another significant scene where Satan accuses Joshua the high priest before God. Once again, Satan is depicted as the accuser, seeking to undermine God's chosen representative. However, God rebukes Satan, reaffirming his authority and plan for redemption. These stories paint a picture of a being who is active and persistent in his opposition to God's plans. Yet, despite his best efforts, Satan remains a defeated foe. The Old Testament reveals a pattern. While Satan seeks to thwart God's purposes, he ultimately cannot overcome God's sovereignty. This theme reaches its climax in the New Testament with the coming of Jesus Christ, who directly confronts Satan's power and offers humanity a path to redemption. But Where was Jesus during all of this? According to Christian theology, Jesus, as part of the eternal Godhead, was present from the very beginning. John 1 verses 1 to 3 reminds us that in the beginning was a Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Jesus, the Word, was active in creation and fully aware of the unfolding events. When Satan fell, Jesus was there. When Satan tempted humanity, Jesus knew the plan for redemption that was already in motion. This understanding reframes the biblical narrative, showing us that the struggle between good and evil, between God and Satan, has always been part of a larger story. Satan's rebellion, his activities during the Old Testament, and his ultimate defeat were all foreseen and countered by God's redemptive plan. So, what can we learn from this? First, Satan's power, while significant, is not absolute. He operates within limits set by God, and his ultimate defeat is assured. Second, God's sovereignty is evident throughout history, even in moments of apparent chaos. And finally, the story of Satan before Jesus is a reminder of the importance of faith and vigilance as we navigate a world where spiritual battles are still at play. What are your thoughts on Satan's role in the biblical narrative? How do these Old Testament glimpses shape your understanding of his actions in the New Testament? Share your insights in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive into the mysteries of the Bible.